The room fell silent before I even lifted my eyes from my plate. A chair scraped. A fork slipped from someone's hand. And then my grandfather's voice sliced straight through the noise. "You've been receiving disability payments for years?" Every head turned toward me. Heat rushed to my face, the air tightening round my ribs. It was the kind of silence that doesn't wait for your reply, only your reaction. I managed a breath and whispered, "What? What do you mean?" That's when I saw him, a man standing behind my grandfather, a closed folder tucked beneath his arm. Too straight, too official, too out of place to be family. My parents wouldn't meet my eyes, and before anyone bothered to respond, the man opened the folder. The whisper of paper louder than any answer they refused to give. A child had built on an equal rooms. He grew up in a house where silence traveled faster than truth. My parents, Linda and Mark, like life, neat, predictable, controlled. I learned early that the safest way to exist was to make myself small, quiet enough not to disrupt the order they clung to. My younger sister, Emma, never learned that lesson. She never needed to. Emma was the sun in every room, the child the world bent toward. When she asked, she received. When she stumbled, hands rushed to catch her before she even felt herself falling. Dad used to say, "She just needs a little more support." Support, ironically, was the one thing never allotted to me. I felt the imbalance long before I understood it. I was 12, standing in the kitchen with a field trip form. The cost was $35. "We can't do extras this month," Mom said without looking up from the bills. Moments later, Emma bounded in with a flyer for dance lessons. Mom's face lit up instantly. "Of course, sweetheart. Same bills, same week, different rules. By high school, the pattern didn't break. It calcified. Emma's cracked laptop was replaced the same day. Mine died, and I was told to use the library. Emma had tutors. I got gentle reminders to work harder. We lived under one roof, but into different realities. The injury that changed everything. Then came the injury, a slip on slick tile during my part-time shift. My back never healed right. I moved slower, lifted carefully, counted every pill in every prescription bottle. Once, I showed Mom the medication, hoping she'd understand the pain. She didn't look up. "You have to be tougher, Iris. Don't depend on anyone." That became my law, my conditioning. My Gersta. Emma went to a private college. I juggled community college classes with boxes on night shifts. When my textbooks cost too much, I dropped a course. When Emma struggled with scheduling, my parents hired someone to fix it for her. But the moment that stayed with me the most happened in the kitchen. I came home aching so badly it felt like someone had tucked a blade beneath my ribs. I laid a crumpled prescription on the counter beside an almost empty pill bottle. "Can you help me cover this?" I asked. Mom didn't pause her seasoning. "You're stronger than this, Iris. Don't be dramatic." Behind her, the new stainless steel appliances gleamed. Bought that spring, and touched by struggle. I stood under the dim kitchen light holding an empty bottle and finally knew exactly where I stood in this family. Hierarchy mattered. Not need, not pain, and certainly not me. The night everything broke open back in the present, the dining room felt smaller than ever. My parents sat in their usual place of honor, angled toward the relatives they wanted to impress. Emma whispered to Mom, both of them smiling at something insignificant, something easy. Grandpa was the only one who wasn't pretending the night was normal. His gaze kept returning to me, searching my face for answers I didn't yet possess. The man with the folder stood stiff behind him. Later, I would learn he was an auditor Grandpa had hired. In that moment, he was just another weight in the room. Small talk clattered on Emma discussing vacations, my parents nodding proudly, cousins pretending not to notice the tension crawling along the tablecloth. Then Grandpa repeated it calmly this time. "You've been receiving disability payments for years?" The room froze. I whispered again, helplessly, "What do you mean?" No one answered. Not my mother, not my father, not my sister. Only the man with the folder stepped forward. And in that moment, clarity pricked through my chest. They all knew something I didn't. I excused myself. No one stopped me. No one even called my name. That was the part that hurt the least and explained the most. evidence of a life built alone in the bathroom, beneath the fuzzy overhead light. I opened my notebook, the one where I track every medical expense, every copay, every bus fare, clinic fee, grocery total, a decade of survival written in cheap ink. Not one line in that notebook had been paid with the mysterious benefits Grandpa claimed existed. I checked my banking app. No unexplained deposits. No support. No relief. Just the same small balance. And the hard way. Calmness washed over me, the cold clarity of truth finally forming a shape. I typed a short email to the benefits office. Please send a full history of disability payments issued under my name, including all addresses used. No explanation, no pleading, just reality. The confrontation. Day 2. Next day. The house was already full. Cars lined the street like guests waiting for a ceremony. Not a reckoning. Inside, nothing had changed. Same seats, same smells, same silence. I entered. No one greeted me. Grandpa did not wait. Let's begin, he said, was steady as stone. Mom stiffened. Dad looked uneasy. Emma didn't look up from her phone. Stevens, the auditor, opened the folder. 10 years of documents. 10 years of disability payments in my name. Deposited into my parents' bank account. Sent to their address. Signed by my mother. Month after month. Year after year. Over $280,000. Money meant to support my injury, my pain, my survival, used for vacations, used for remodels, used for Emma. Dad murmured, we used it for the family. Stephen's voice was quiet, but unyielding. For the family, or for conveniences. Mom's face drained of color. Grandpa's voice shook with restrained fury. You let her go without medication. You let her work through pain while you upgraded kitchens. Dad stammered something about telling me eventually. Eventually when? After another decade, their excuses crumbled under the weight of the truth. Stephen shut the folder. The accounts will be frozen. Restitution will be processed directly to Iris. Mom gasped. Dad slumped. Emma stayed silent, as if realizing the world she lived in had been propped up by my suffering. Grandpa turned to me. You don't owe them anything. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. I picked up my coat and walked out. Behind me, the silence finally cracked, not with shouting, but with the sound of people realizing the truth had already made its choice. A new kind of quiet. Grandpa drove me home without a word, letting the night hold us gently. When he stopped in front of my building, he said only, they won't touch another dollar. His tone wasn't angry. It was final. Inside my apartment, I laid the folder on a table. My name printed on the documents like it finally belonged somewhere. My address missing from every page like I had been erased on purpose. But not anymore. In the dim light, the papers looked sharp and honest. Silence no longer felt like suffocation. It felt like space finally mine. Boundaries don't shout. They stand quietly. From NUNMOVABLE. And for the first time, I understood. Morning crept into my apartment quietly. As if afraid to disturb the papers I'd left scattered across the kitchen table. Sunlight stretched across the folder Stevens had handed me, illuminating the edges like a border drawn carefully round a wound. For the first time in years, I woke without the heavy ache of anticipation. No mental checklist of bills. No silent calculations about which meal I could skip. No rehearsed excuses for why I couldn't afford something essential. My back still throbbed, a reminder of the fold that changed everything. But the financial claustrophobia, the pressure of never having enough felt loosened. So this is what truth felt like. Not warm, not comforting, but steady. I poured a glass of water and sat at the table, studying the documents again. Seeing my name printed on every line still felt strange. Like reading a story where the main character looked familiar, but lived a life I had never known. A life I should have had. My phone buzzed. A new email from Disability Benefits Office. Subject, urgent, confirmation needed. Me breath tightened. I opened it. They wanted a formal statement, ID verification, bank details, and confirmation of my current address. Straightforward requests, clinical and precise. But beneath the formal language, I could sense at the beginning of restitution, of something that might finally shift the balance I'd lived under for so long. I replied immediately. For years, I had been trained to survive on scraps. Now, I was learning how to receive. The first calendar later, my phone rang. Grandpa. I answered, and the silence between us was soft, like a blanket laid gently on a bruise. How are you holding up? He asked. The question startled me. Not the words, but the sincerity. Rare, delicate, I'm figuring it out, I said, and it was the closest thing to honest I could manage. You don't have to go through this alone. His voice held something fragile, regret, maybe, or guilt for the years he hadn't realized what was happening under his own roof. I know, I whispered. He exhaled, long and slow. They're panicking. Iris, your parents, Emmer, they didn't expect consequences. Of course they didn't. People who never face limits rarely expect them. I'm not going back there, I said. I wasn't asking you to. We stayed on the line for a moment, the silence no longer choking but calm, almost reassuring. If you need help with the process, Grandpa said softly, I'll be here. A strange warmth settled at the edge of my ribs, the kind of warmth that comes from someone choosing you, not out of obligation, but out of understanding. After we hung up, I sat still for a long while. My apartment felt different, as if the walls had shifted. Maybe they hadn't. Maybe I had. A knock at the door. It was nearly noon when I heard the knock. Soft, hesitant, I opened the door and found Emma standing there, hands shoved into the pockets of her coat. For a moment, neither of us spoke. She looked smaller than I remembered, not fragile, just stripped of the confidence she wore like armor. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside. Emma moved slowly, her eyes tracing the stack of documents on the table. She swallowed hard. So, it's real, she said. It's always been real. She nodded, staring at her shoes. I didn't know, she whispered. Mom and Dad never told me anything. They said you were dramatic, that you didn't try hard enough, that you liked being independent. The words hit me not with pain, not anymore, but with a deep, quiet confirmation. Of course, that's what they told her. Of course she believed them. You believed everything they said. I replied gently. I know, she whispered, and I'm sorry. Her voice trembled. Her apology wasn't performative. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, clumsy, raw, the kind of apology someone gives when they finally see the world without filters. I should have noticed, she said. I should have asked you how you were doing. I should have. You were a kid, I said. You learned the same rules I did. Emma blinked, tears gathering on her lashes. For once, she didn't try to hide them. I want to fix things, she said. I shook my head. You can't fix this, I said softly. It's not yours to fix. She looked down, nodding slowly. She understood, maybe for the first time, that this wasn't a wound she could bandage. But she also wasn't the one who made it. Before she left, she paused at the door. Iris, she said, yes, you deserve so much more. For a moment, the truth didn't hurt. It simply settled inside me like something I had always known and never heard aloud. The visit that evening, my parents came. Not together. Mom came first, knocking sharply, her posture tight, her smile strained. She looked around my apartment as if expecting to find proof that I'd exaggerated my struggles. Iris, we need to talk, she said. No, I answered calmly. You need to talk. I'm listening. For the first time in my life, the dynamic shifted. She was the one scrambling for footing. I was the one grounded. She tried to rationalize everything, how expensive life had been, how messy finances got, how things got out of hand. Every excuse sounded like a rope frayed by years of misuse. I didn't respond to her justifications. I didn't argue. I didn't give her the reaction she was searching for. When she realized I wasn't going to save her from her own explanations, she stopped talking. She left quietly. Dad came later. He didn't try to defend himself. He simply stood in the doorway, eyes tired, voice low. I'm sorry, he whispered, and for once, it didn't feel like manipulation. It felt like the truth. I didn't forgive him, not yet. Maybe not ever, but I nodded. A simple acknowledgement that I heard him. That was all. The investigation over the next few days. Emails arrived from the benefits office. The investigation moved quickly faster than I expected. My parents' accounts were frozen. Restitution procedures had begun. For the first time in a decade, the system recognized me. The real me. Not the daughter they erased. Not the girl they taught to shrink. Not the shadow they kept in the background. Me. I sat on my living room floor surrounded by documents, receipts, and the quiet hum of my refrigerator, my life in fragments. But finally my own. Slowly, piece by piece, I began to rebuild. Not revenge, not anger, just reclamation. A steady, deliberate return to myself. The beginning of something new. One night, as I was cleaning the last pile of papers, I found the old notebook I'd used to track my medical expenses. The pages were wrinkled, ink smudged, numbers squeezed into the margins. I set it on the table beside the official documents. One represented survival, the other represented truth. Together, they formed a kind of map, a map of a life lived in the shadow of other people's choices. But now, for the first time, I stood outside that shadow. I closed the notebook gently and whispered to the quiet room, I'm done surviving. I'm ready to live. The weeks after the investigation began moved strangely slow on the outside, fast on the inside. Each day carried a mix of stillness and storm. Like I was living inside the eye of something enormous. I wasn't waiting for permission anymore. Yet my body kept expecting it. Like a habit hardwired into my bones, the benefits office emailed me every few days. Clear instructions, required forms, requests for verification. Each message brought me closer to a truth I had been denied for years. My parents didn't contact me again. Emma sent one text, I'm here if you need anything. I replied, thank you, no more, no less. I wasn't angry with her, not anymore. She had lived on a stage built for her, while I'd been taught to exist behind the curtain. She didn't build the system, she just benefited from it. But now I was stepping out into the light for the first time, and the world felt bigger than I ever expected. A new routine started waking up earlier, not because I had to, but because something in me wanted to. Morning sunlight through the thin curtains of my apartment had never felt comforting before. Now it felt like an invitation. I cleaned the apartment slowly, sorting old papers, organizing boxes, tossing out things I had held onto out of scarcity. The more I cleared, the lighter the air felt. I added a small plant near the window, a gift to myself, a promise, a sign of growth I could actually see. Every few days, Grandpa would call, not long calls, not heavy ones, just enough to remind me that someone in this world was actually on my side. How's everything moving? He'd ask, slow but steady. I'd reply, that's the best kind. Sometimes we didn't talk at all. We just stayed on the phone, breathing through the quiet, letting it settle between us in a way silence never had in my childhood home. The letter on Friday evening, a thick envelope arrived from the benefits office. The seal had the familiar official emblem I'd been seeing in emails. My pulse picked up, but not with fear this time, anticipation. I sat on the couch, the envelope heavy in my hands. I tore it open carefully. Inside were 3 documents. A full 10-year payment record, a legal statement confirming fraud committed by third parties, a restitution plan directly to meth number printed at the bottom stunned me. Not because it was large, I had expected that, but because seeing it in black ink, in a line with my name next to it, felt like witnessing the rewriting of my own history. It wasn't money, it was acknowledgement, proof that I had not imagined my struggle, proof that the world had turned a blind eye. But now it was looking. My throat tightened, but no tears came. Relief didn't always arrive as crying. Sometimes it arrived as breath. And when I exhaled, it felt like I'd been holding that breath since I was 12 years old. A knock in the night. A week later, there was a knock at my door around 9 p.m., the kind of knock that held hesitation behind it. I opened it expecting a neighbor. Instead, it was Dad. For a moment, words failed him. His shoulders looked smaller, his face older, his eyes carrying something I had never seen on him. Humility. Can we talk? I didn't open the door wider, but I didn't close it either. He swallowed hard. Iris, I know you don't owe me anything. And I know we can't undo what's been done. His voice broke. But I need you to hear this. He paused, gathering whatever fragile courage he had left. I was wrong. We were wrong. We failed you. Not by mistake, by choice. We chose comfort over your pain. We chose Emma's ease over your survival. And I don't expect forgiveness. His voice cracked again. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. All of it. And I'm ashamed. For the first time in my life, I believed him. Not because he said the right words. Not because he looked broken. But because he wasn't asking for anything. Not sympathy. Not redemption. Not explanations. Just the chance to speak a truth he had run from for a decade. I nodded once. Thank you for saying it. I said quietly. It didn't erase anything. It didn't fix anything. But it acknowledged everything. He stepped back, relief trembling in his posture. I won't bother you again, he said. Unless you want me to. I didn't answer, and he didn't expect me to. He walked away into the cold night, the sound of his footsteps fading into something that felt like closure. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just closure. Learning myself again next month felt different, lighter, sharper. I began physical therapy again, not the cheap drop-in clinic, but a place that actually listened when I described my pain. The therapist adjusted my posture, taught me stretches, encouraged me to move slowly and deliberately. You're stronger than you think, she said. For once, that sentence didn't feel like a dismissal. It felt like recognition. I started writing more, something I had always loved, but never given myself time for. Pages filled with reflections, memories, plans. I wasn't writing to escape anymore. I was writing to understand. I also met with a financial advisor assigned by the benefits office. For the first time, the conversation wasn't about survival. It was about future. Future word that had always felt like a luxury. Now, it felt like a landscape opening in front of me. A visit from a rainy, quiet Sunday afternoon. Emma showed up again, this time with a small box in her hands. I found this in the house, she said softly. I thought it was yours. Inside were old childhood things. A bracelet I made in school, a photo of me in a hospital gown after my injury, a letter I wrote Mom on my 17th birthday that she never gave me back. Emma's eyes filled with guilt. I wish I'd seen it sooner, she whispered. I touched the photo gently. You're seeing it now, I said. That matters too. For the first time, Emma smiled, not the bright, confident smile she used to wear, but a soft, earnest one. I want to be in your life, she said. You can, I replied. But it has to start new, not from what we were taught. She nodded, tears running down her cheek. I can do that. And for the first time, I believed her. A life reclaimed by the end of the year. The restitution was complete. The funds were transferred into an account under my name, documented properly, legally protected. I didn't spend the money immediately. I didn't rush into big decisions. I just let it sit there quiet, steady, undeniable, proof that the world had finally returned to me what was mine. One evening, I stood on my apartment balcony, watching the sky shift from orange to deep blue. The city hummed softly below. For the first time, I felt a sense of belonging, not to a house, not to a role, not to someone else's expectations, but to myself. The silence around me was expansive, a silence I had chosen, a silence that didn't cage me but freed me. My life was imperfect. My back still ached, my heart still carried scars, but I was no longer living in the shadow of other people's choices. I had stepped into a new truth, one crafted by my own hands, not stolen or shaped for someone else's comfort. And standing there under the fading light, I whispered to the night, I'm finally home.